Hello and welcome to the D Hope podcast. Today is very special. We have Miss Vickie Patterson back with us. Welcome back.
Yes,
Glad to have you on with us today, and we're just gonna chat a little bit about just life and how to uh, not be offended. I found this card that I got several years ago from one of my small group leaders, and I don't know, my background is blurry, um, but it says 7 ways to remain unoffended, and it was really helpful to me when I got it because I was just saying to Hope and Miss Vickie that I was an offended person. I was offended a lot, but if you would have asked me if I was offended, I would have told you no because I didn't quite know how to tell myself the truth at the time. Uh, Lied to myself a lot about a lot of things. So that was one of the things that I would do. But the card says 7 ways to remain unoffended. And I don't know if the small group leader who gave this to me is the one who like just came up with it. It doesn't have like an author or anything on it, but her name was Beth. So we'll just give Beth the credit
yeah.
for these 7 ways to remain unoffended. And then it says, what would Jesus do? Uh, so the first one is take the lowest seat. So what do y'all think that means, to take the lowest seat?
The first thing I think of is being um, humble, like putting others before yourself, basically. But I may be incorrect. What do you think?
No,
Was thinking.
yeah, I think, yeah. I think the same. I think that is what that means, is to consider others over just what I'm feeling at the moment. So I
Mhm.
think you're absolutely uh correct in that. And it's just taking into consideration that I'm not the only one in the midst of it, of whatever's going on. That it's not just about me. So number two says always remain grateful for anything positive at all.
Mhm. I think that's just the heart of gratitude, and finding
Yes.
gratitude in something every day is a good practice to start if you haven't already.
Yes. So remain positive. And even if it says always remain grateful for anything positive at all. But I think sometimes, even if the situation doesn't seem positive, maybe we have to look for it.
So when I first started off in my recovery, like years before I reached long-term recovery, one of the first things that I started doing every morning was writing a gratitude list.
Hmm.
Things I was thankful for, even when I was in a season where life was not really great. I constantly would wake up and at least, I think it was about 10 things actually that I would write down every morning. And it could be like, I'm thankful for the sun. Like,
Yeah.
even when I was like really reaching for things to be thankful for.
Yeah. 10 is a pretty extensive list. Like I mean, that the fact that you were doing 10 every day is
Because I heard where
amazing.
you can rewire your brain to be happy if you
Yeah.
just like list at least like 3 things daily. But yeah, I think I was making a list of like 10 things. Like, there again, some of them was like reaching for just something to write down.
Yeah.
But I did that faithfully for a long time. I still do it at times too.
Yeah. I found that at the Dollar Tree this little notebook that it was a gratitude journal. And it just, you put the date and then just write down what you were grateful for, and that gave me a prompt to do it. And even though I don't do it every day, when I do, pick it up and do it, I'm always like just discovering more things that I am grateful for. And
it's okay if you say multiple times the same things that you're grateful for, because I do that. I mean, like every time I walk in my house and before I go to bed, before I get up out of bed, I normally say the same thing when I thank God for, like, I thank God for my home. I thank God for my children, my grandchildren, my job, my health, true friends, but mostly that my health at my age, I really don't have any issues, thank God, right now. And that my job, I love. And I'm going on 20 years at the garden supply. So I've really been blessed. I'm really grateful for that. And for me to be able to have built my own house and everything, when I walk out and I see my 3 children's pictures, I'm like, I'm thankful. I look up.
Yeah. That is a lot to be thankful for in 20 years in the business.
Oh yeah.
That is a milestone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So congratulations on your 20th year anniversary.
Yes, thank you.
You are welcome. So what are your plans for the next, we'll say the next 20 years? What are your plans?
To build on to my community, hopefully in the next year, that's happening. I'm praying, and just to keep being thankful and what it all. Getting closer. I'd like to see my grandkids more. That's my plan to retire, I say, in maybe 5 to 7 years retirement. So, only God knows that. I just said, when it's time, you'll let me know. Because I love what I do. Because, I could continue to work. Because I love what I do every day. So, it's really not a job to me.
And that's what they say, that if you're doing what you love, it doesn't feel like work.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, good deal.
Yes.
So the third one is be a giver. Be a giver. And that's I find that interesting, to under the ways to remain unoffended is to be a giver.
I'm a giver. I'm always been a giver. So, yeah.
I think
if you give with the right heart, that blessings come from it.
Yes.
I think there's something about giving from a place
Like
with nothing, you're not expecting anything in return, and I think helping in it will lead you a life where you're less offended, right? If I'm able to give freely and to be confident in what God has given me, whether and that's in contentment, then I'm less offended by what somebody else has or doesn't have.
Yeah.
I'm content with what I have. I'm able to give freely. So I can see why that's on there.
Yeah. That puts it into a different perspective.
It does, definitely. Because I think, to me, giving and not being, that helps with not being offended, because then it kind of ties into a whole other thing of like jealousy. Like, you don't have to be like jealousy. You don't have to have all those other emotions when you're able and content with what you have. You can give, you can live a life where not everything that happens or doesn't happen is going to lead you like to where you're unraveling.
Yes.
I mean, I've lived in both, so more towards,
Yeah.
hopefully not being offended. But I think that's how God wants us to live. He wants us to be able to give, and to live in that way of not being offended.
Yeah. I think it ties into the first one too of taking the lowest, seat. If I'm being a giver, then like you said, the less I don't have time to be concerned about the
Yeah,
things that I may be wanting to happen, or feel or have jealousy towards another person prospering, because I'm giving out of what I can give. And it's
yeah,
not about like, trying to match somebody else's giving. It's no, like, if I'm giving of my time, I'm giving. If
you're
I'm
giving.
giving money, I'm giving. If I'm giving you a ride, I'm giving. Like, so it's not all of, I think sometimes when people think about giving, it's in a
Materialistic.
vein of, yeah, but it's
Yeah,
like whatever you're giving, when you smile at somebody, you're giving them something, so it's the am I giving at all?
I think I'm glad you mentioned time because I think that's the biggest gift you can give to someone is
Yes.
your time. That's how you truly know, hey, if somebody's willing to give you time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that means they care in
Yeah.
a fast-paced world.
Yeah, because if I
Yeah.
don't have to, yeah, if I say a lot, and I've stopped saying it as much, but I used to say say it all the time. Um, that I don't have time for that. I don't have time for this, and the things that I'm talking about, I truly don't, like sickness. I don't have time for that. I don't have time to be sick because I got other stuff to do.
Yeah.
I don't have time for shenanigans that aren't gonna progress anybody's life, because I don't have time to waste on that. So I say it in the vein of those things, but when it comes to people, I gotta make time
Yeah, you do.
for people.
You make
And
time for who you want to be around.
yes.
Well, and when I think about it, like you made time to come visit, right? She didn't have to come. It takes up time, money, all
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
other different things, but you make time for your family. I mean, you do make time for things that are important to you.
Right.
Or at
Right.
least you try to. I mean, there's certain situations where it's more difficult, right? I mean,
Yeah.
some people are in unforeseen situations that maybe alters that. But if you're capable of it and you're not doing it, then that's like a self-reflection of what are my values, what's important to me, and what do I need to shift.
Right. Yes. I 100% agree. And it's in Second Corinthians 9 7. um it says, each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver.
Yeah,
And I think about that cheerful.
the
uh
cheerful.
I was like, there's been times when
Yeah,
I have given and I wasn't cheerful about it, and I was like, nobody's blessed by this, by this, um, by this action, because I'm not being cheerful, so I'm not going to get anything out of it. And they might get what they need from me, but they've also probably gotten a bad attitude, which still is
mm-hmm.
not going to add a blessing to their
It
life.
killed all that.
Yeah. Say that again, Miss Vickie. I couldn't hear you.
I said it kills all that if you're not giving from the heart and being cheerful about it and doing it because you want to, then and I don't think God's going to bless you because you wasn't doing really what you wanted. You was doing what maybe you was expected to do. But if you give with a loving and grateful and a giving heart because that's what's on your heart to do, then I think you'll be blessed.
Yes.
I know I've always been blessed because that's what I've always done, and God's blessed me.
Yes. Because you've done it with the right attitude.
And not expecting nothing in return.
Right. Absolutely. Because that's what he says. He blesses a cheerful giver. So those that aren't feeling like they getting the blessings.
I mean, I think we all could probably find ourselves, like you said, whether it's like time or whatever. You know, if I have to give up my time to run errands, like I'm giving up something, am I always cheerful about it? No. But there again, you can work on your attitude and work on like, why am I doing this? You know, it is serving a purpose.
Yeah. I think I've found attaching, like finding the purpose and checking my motives helps in either me doing it or not, doing it. Because to me, if it's not going to be mutually beneficial for whoever is involved, I don't need to be doing it. And so I often check my motives, and then too, I want to know like what is attached to this for me. So like if it is going to say the grocery store, which I just don't care to do. I don't, especially if it's on the end of buying a pork chop.
I don't anymore.
Just don't enjoy it. But it's like, somebody's going to enjoy this pork chop. Yes. And so because I'm going to get it, somebody's going to enjoy it. So I have to make it more about the people attached to it than the actual task.
That's good then.
Yes. So the fourth one, which is my favorite of all of the 7, is give others their freedom. Give others their freedom.
Yeah, that's good.
So what that means to me is allowing people to be whoever they are, however they are, whenever they are, without it bothering me. Because before I got this lovely information, what other people did, if other people weren't kind, it ticked me off. Because, well, if I'm being nice and kind, why aren't they? So I was expecting people to be me, which is not okay, because they're not me. If God wanted a bunch of Donnas, he would have made a bunch of Donnas, but he didn't do that. And so, because of what a boring place this would be if he did. So he needed all of us to be different. And so, whatever you're doing, whenever you're doing it, and however you're doing it, it doesn't have to be offensive to me. And I can be like, oh, okay, well, God bless you, and go about my business. I don't have to be offended by you. So what do y'all think about that? Giving others their freedom.
I think it's the freedom of choice, and just realizing that, we're all uniquely different. Well, for an example, earlier today, we're out shopping.
Oh, yeah.
So she likes things, and I like different things.
And I'm like, I'm not paying for it because I didn't like it. But she said, well, we like things different.
I said, I'm more eccentric. I'm going to like things different, okay?
I'm the more moderate. It's all got to blend in together, look good.
Are you saying my taste doesn't look good?
No, her taste it is good, but it's just a little different from mine. Like her new home that I'm trying to decorate.
She's trying to decorate.
I'm trying to decorate.
She was like, no, I don't like that. And I said, well, I do.
She said, I like this. I said, this is not your home. This is my home.
Not your house.
But no,
but we laughed about it, and I said,
Right.
but I
"Okay,
mean,
go
it's a
ahead."
good example, but I
Yeah.
mean, we're all different. I mean, like I have to do it with me and Eric. Like me and Eric will, like I have to catch myself because I'm like, we're just gonna just disagree. But like, is it really worth getting upset because we
No.
can't agree on a plant? You know,
We did
Like,
agree upon
we
the plan.
did. I'm just giving an example.
Yeah.
That I got.
But that's why God made us all different. And it's like giving people, like you said, like it just acknowledging that like we all think differently, we all have different tastes, and like it's not like yours is good and mine's bad or mine's
Right.
bad and it's good. It's just that we're just different, you know?
Yes.
Why would we want like I don't need your house. You have your own house. Like I need my house to look like I live here, you know?
Yeah. Like, yeah, it needs to have your touch, your touch.
Well,
on
and
it.
another example, which is funny, is hold on, is I was of this. So I was typing out our last episode of like how I type out like the small description, and Eric comes up and he says, "You know that they have an app that can just write that for you." And I said, I can't use that because it won't have my personality. And I was like, and like, I'll know that that's not my words, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't sound like me. It has to sound like I would be, you know, writing it,
Yeah.
saying it. Anyways, I thought it was funny because he was trying to like help me out. Like, hey, you know, you could just like do this in like 2 seconds. But I was
Yeah.
like, no, I can't do that because it's not my personality to it. So that's
Yeah.
like not the same thing, but I think it's just funny how like everybody needs their own unique touch to
Yes.
whatever
So
they're doing.
yeah, everybody's different. Everybody likes different things. I mean, we're not totally different, but I mean, her house is beautiful. So I just wanted to put stuff in here I thought would look good.
Yeah.
But
And
anyway,
I'm sure there's you know, space for you to do, you know, some of that too. Add your touch
oh,
somewhere.
I did.
Yeah.
She did.
I did.
Yeah.
I come in and make a few changes.
Yes, to make it beautiful.
Yeah.
Which like you said, it's already beautiful, but
Yeah.
you're just adding a little
Beauty
extra
to
to
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do agree that it is the same. Like we are all different. We all have different things, and I think it plays a part, you know, in that if we can just give others that freedom to be, you know, to be them, and whether we like their behavior or not, it's not like I don't have to like. I'm not gonna like everything anybody does. Like, to think that I'm gonna just be like okay with everything is ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
But I also don't have to be offended by stuff that has nothing to do with me. You know, now if something is directly going to harm me, yeah, I'm gonna speak up about that. You know, but if it
Yeah, when
has
I was
no,
cooking biscuits
yeah,
this morning, I cut my finger open.
What?
When I cut my
Cut your finger.
I cut my finger this morning. Remember when on that knife? And that's what I'm doing. I'm holding this to it.
Do you need another Band-Aid?
Yeah, well, I need
another
get
Band-Aid.
me a
Yeah,
Band-Aid.
get some first aid.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the first aid kit.
Yes. We got to do surgery right now. Hold on. Got to get some first aid.
But I agree with you. Just giving people the freedom to be who they are not only sets them free, but it sets yourself free too, because you're less offended when they're disagreeing.
Yes.
And I think maturity helps with that too, and growing and knowing who God's called you to be. When
Yeah.
you live in whoever God's called you to be, you're less offended, and you can move in a way differently. And that, I
Right.
mean, and that's just how God works in your life. basically.
Yes.
It's like
We're not-
that's how the
yeah.
Holy Spirit like comes in, because we as humans, we will get offensive very easily when
Mhm.
somebody is different from us. That's the human
Yes.
nature part of us.
Yes. I've heard it said this way, that, you know, we're more likely to criticize what we don't understand.
Yes, that's it. That is it. And we tend to do that. I really, that's something that I really try to work on, is like try not to criticize. And I feel like I'm pretty good about it. Try to be, but like just being more open minded to why people are behaving the way they're behaving. I look
Yeah.
more deeper into like why people maybe make the choices they make. Because what else is underlining, what else is going on, instead of, you know, just kind of looking at the outside. I kind of, and that goes from my own experience too. You know, it's
Yeah.
easier to criticize and look at somebody's outside of behaviors or whatever, but if you look deeper, then that's where you can have more compassion. I don't know, that's just me though.
Yeah. I 100% agree. It does help to be, when you are seeking to understand a person rather than just criticizing the behavior, it does help you to be more compassionate, you know, towards them. Uh, so let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 5 is make decisions that promote life in others.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So how do you feel like you do that, Hope?
Um, Make decisions that promote. I mean, I try to do it daily. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
with the work that I do, I mean, I try to always encourage people to not be prisoners of their past or whatever their current situation is. And I try to, you know, promote like anybody can change. I mean, it comes with like the choice of, you know, what do you want in your life, and just making the necessary changes. I mean, not that it's easy, it's not easy, but I mean, I try to see the good, and not focus on the negative, because I'm my worst critic. So when anything else goes wrong in my life or
Mm-hmm.
with my kids, I mean, anything, I'm the first one that I think there's something that I did. I mean, it's got to be my fault. And so I'm working on, you know, promoting what I give to others. Like it's not necessarily, because then it makes you think, well, it's not always about you, Hope. Right? You know, it kind of makes you like self-reflect of not any, you know, it makes you think about that too. Not only the positive, but the
But
negative. So if you
yeah,
can do that for other people, you got to start doing it for yourself, you know, and just, I mean, it's growth. It's, you know, God just grows you. I said, God grows you up. He really
yeah,
does. He does.
he does, and he continues to do it. And like
Yeah.
that's what I would have, you know, I would have said most of that about you, like that you're a super encourager
Yeah.
of people, and bringing out like the best in them. Like that's how I see you, as a person that is constantly wanting to help people to bring out the best in them, that they understand and know that they're capable of more than what they may be uh exemplifying at the
I
moment.
appreciate that. I try to, but that, you know why? It's because I feel like I do what people have done for me. So I feel like I was given that from you and from other, you know. And so if somebody was able to speak life in me when I was unable to do it for myself, then I need to help do that for somebody else.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
What say you, Miss Vickie?
You
Yep, I
next.
fell asleep.
I always say tag, you're it.
What, Miss Donna?
You got to answer the question. She's about to go to sleep over here.
My stomach's full, and I'm in front of this fire, and I'm
We are in the middle of a podcast.
All right, what was the question?
It's how do you make decisions that promote life in others? Because that's like your business.
I mean,
Yes.
I'm always I always try to be positive and uplift everybody each day. I mean, even with myself, I'm always teaching them to be uplifting to their co-workers, themselves, and to our residents. And each day you deal with a different situation every day. I do. I never have a day the same. You just go in. I mean, I always go in happy because I'm pretty much, a happy person. I mean, all the time. So I just go in happy, take care of them, love them, compliment them, laugh with them, joke with them. They have me laughing, and we have the best time. So you need to do that with. It doesn't matter what age you are. You need to uplift people that you're around and show them, bring out the good in them instead of the negative. I mean, negative's never good unless you're one-on-one with me and I'm telling you what you need to do different. Other than that, you need to be, you need to uplift people, you need to be positive, and it's the only way to do it. For me, I mean, even with your family, you need to. I've had to learn to listen more. So it's good.
How about for you, Miss Donna?
So the way that I make decisions that promote life in others is by being honest with them. Like I feel like that's because that promotes life in me. Two is to be honest with people. But not just being, I'm gonna tell you the truth. And when I say I'm telling you the truth, I'm talking about the word of God. I'm telling you the word of God. If I say I'm telling you the truth, if I'm giving you my opinion, you can do whatever you want to with that. But and I work towards not looking at how stuff is just going to affect me, but how it's going to affect those that are attached to me as well. And I agree 100% with just having fun and laughter in your life on a daily basis, because laughter to me is the best medicine. So I'm gonna look for points to laugh at any at any given moment, in any given time, just to add laughter. But that's how I like to make decisions that promote life in others.
That's good. Yep. I would say you definitely, that's true. That's factual.
So yes. So number 6 is trust God to bring justice when offense comes. Trust God to bring justice when offense comes. Well, how are we doing in that on a scale of 1 to 10?
How are you feeling today on a scale of 1 to 10?
On a scale of 1
The older I get, I just really don't try to pay people any attention if they want to be negative, which I don't really have to deal with all of that. Right, I mean, in my line of work right now, then they may be on the outside, might be saying anything, but it's just, and if I was to, which I do in different areas, but not in my work. So if people are being negative and don't try to show God's love, which I have dealt with that with plenty of people, I always do go back to what my mama says. You need, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So I always try to be nice, kill people with kindness, because at the end of the day, I'm gonna have to deal with that.
Absolutely.
My heart,
Yes.
when I lay down at night, I need to have peace and not let nobody else, upset
Yes.
me. I get a little emotional about that because I'm dealing with a few things, and that's emotional. But I just have to give it to God.
Yes. And that is, I think that's a hard part for for some people, because like I was saying earlier, we can't control people being offensive, but we can control whether we're offended or not. And I believe that's where we get the most, where we can lay down and have peace, is because we remain, that's we're letting God handle that. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, he will repay. I don't have to get nasty with somebody just because they got nasty with me.
That's what I've had to let it do.
Yes.
That's what I've had to do.
I mean,
Yes.
I've learned this firsthand. It don't take revenge upon yourself, because
Going to jail.
Mama,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes, that too.
Yes. It's not gonna work out well.
It's not. Look, that's it's not going to work out well. God doesn't honor that behavior. It's not that. I always say that, like, I fully believe that if there is something, like, God's a just God, and so if there's things done, like, I fully, and He has done it, but there I fully believe, like, God takes care of things in His own time and not in mine. So if He's going to protect me, and I know that. So like, as long as I know that, I fully believe that. Not that, I mean, like, God protects all of us. Like, we have to believe that, like, we're walking with Him, and He's going to give out the vengeance or whatever.
Yeah.
The justice. And I mean, and He does it. He does it in our own lives. Just think about when He kind of how I look at it is like, if I do something and I feel like I'm in the wrong about something, like, I feel like I'm nudged that, hey, like, maybe you need to apologize, or maybe, you need to do things differently. So, I mean, that's kind of the way I feel like God too uses the Holy Spirit to come in and say, hey, like, there's something that needs to shift right here. And that's also a way He brings, like, not kind of justice, but kind of like He works within us, just like He works with other people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And when we allow him to cover it and fix it, He can do a way better job than we can.
Yeah, of course.
A way better job, because He knows, like, He can move upon people's hearts better than I can. He can change their heart, mind, will, all of that.
That's what I just pray for their hearts to be changed.
Yes.
So God changes. God can go far more and do far more than what we ever could, and it starts with the heart. And He can work in people's hearts. He's worked in mine. He's like, I mean, because I used to not be like that.
Like, I didn't either, Hope. I didn't used to be like that either. However you gave it to me was how you were getting it back. And He just had to teach me that, ma'am, that is just not helpful. That is not the way.
It's just you can still show love, even if people.
Yeah. If they're not
I
being,
think it goes back to, like, I look at behaviors. Like, I mean, what is underlining behind that behavior? And then a lot of times I realize it probably don't have nothing to do with me anyway, so it's none of my business. I'm in the full, like, if it's none of my business and I'm not tied to it, it ain't my place. Like,
yes.
Maybe you're in the wrong place. Maybe at the right time, but the wrong place, that something is occurring, that they've already went through something that's upsetting to them, but you're there, so they attack you.
That happens a lot.
It does happen a lot.
Yes.
So I just think, well, I know I didn't do anything, so I'm skipping out.
Yeah. and that's what I do too. I'm like, I know when I evaluate, and I go, like, I don't know you, so I couldn't have done anything to you, and I'm just getting the brunt of what somebody else did. I used to work with young ladies that had traumatic experiences in a behavioral health center. And, you know, that can be a difficult place because they're hurting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're hurting, and they don't need you adding to the hurt just because they might be spewing, you know, stuff on you that has nothing to do with you. So I would just tell them at times when they were, you know, lashing out, uh, I'd say, hey, I'm not the one who offended you. And it
Mm-hmm.
would always bring them down. And then they go, I'm sorry. I wouldn't. I'm just, I hear you, but I just want you to what I didn't do it. You know, I'm not the one who offended you.
Right. I'm not the one. You're
Yeah,
being
like
really
that.
aggressive. I always say like you're being really aggressive right now, and I'm not the
Yeah.
aggressor.
Yeah, like I didn't do whatever it is that was done. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't on me. I'm willing to listen to you though, but you know, like just and you bring it down a notch or
Yeah.
whatever.
Can you tone it down? Really back
Yeah,
in.
yeah. But
I
it's
take this call.
wild to me how
Okay.
you know how we're not getting behavior from people that
I'm sorry.
we
Hold on one
deserve.
second.
Yeah.
Mama. I'm sorry. Mama, it's you're gonna have to go outside. Okay, I'm sorry. She's taking a phone call, but we can continue.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, like getting that the people the giving us the behavior that we didn't do it. It wasn't us. Um
Mm-hmm.
and so like I think public people that work in customer service and stuff like that, they get that type of behavior often. Um
Yes.
you know, a lot of the time the things that's happening is not their fault, but they're getting the brunt of the issue. So as much as I can, whenever I'm dealing with a situation that and I'm having to talk to another, you know, a person about it, I work towards not say, okay, this is not they're not the owner of the company.
Yeah.
They probably didn't make the policies. So
Right.
it's no sense in me being nasty to them.
Yeah.
You know. And I
And
would, you know, I
you're
like the
trying to
same
get
behavior.
through. Yeah. You know, I tend to hear myself like I don't, you know, I don't make the rules, but I do have to enforce them.
Yes, yes. It's like, no, I didn't. Yeah, I got to follow them just like you.
Yeah.
And you know, I get that complaint almost
You
in my
get that
work
all the time, I'm sure, right now.
right now. Just what that rule doesn't make sense. Well, you know, it doesn't have to make sense, but it's what we got to do.
Yeah.
It's what
You
we're
know,
gonna have to follow.
I didn't
It
make the
doesn't.
rule, but guess
Yeah,
what? You have to follow it. I have to follow it. So
yeah. So we might as well.
there's
There's
a
no, you
reason
know,
why it's put in place.
place. Yes, like, and that's what I say a lot. There's a reason
Then,
why that rule had to come about.
yeah.
Unfortunately, I know it wasn't you. You're not the
Mhm.
reason it had to come about, but you're just the recipient, you
Mhm.
know, of that rule. So let's just follow. Let's just do what we need to do. And plus, like it says, trust God to bring the justice. I don't have to bring the justice. He's going to do that. I just have to trust that he will and not take matters into my own hands.
I can hear you better now.
Okay.
Sorry, and I feel like
No worries.
when I talk to someone, I want to be like I'm there with them, and so I feel like I need. The closer I am to the screen, it's like I'm there with you. It's so weird.
But that, yeah, it makes you feel closer. It does.
It does for some reason.
Yeah.
Now I feel like okay, we're talking. I mean, not that we wasn't, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So the seventh one is find refreshing in prayer, Bible study, and fellowship. And I mean, that to me is the topper, because that
Mm-hmm.
is definitely how you're going to remain unoffended. Is if you're focused on God and your relationship with Him, then the less time you're going to have to be offended by anybody else.
Yep, I agree.
So just it's a beautiful thing. So how do you how do you study your Bible? I think that's a good question. How do you study the Bible?
How I do it is usually I go to the New Testament. And I like Proverbs. So like right now I read in Proverbs. So I'm in
Yes.
Proverbs right now. But I mean, I have different parts of it where I tend to just like stay in the New Testament. But like I said, I just randomly will pick a book of the Bible and just start reading it.
Yeah.
But I mean, some people follow like plans, which I mean, I wish I could, but I tend to just kind of go to whatever I'm feeling in that moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I know there's a lot of like reading plans.
But I like devotionals. I like devotionals.
Yeah.
So I like reading my devotionals.
Yes.
So
And I think like when you're studying, because there's a lot of like reading plans out there. And I think devotionals help you to take like a deeper dive into, because it is pulling, you know, scriptures out and talking in more of like detail about those certain scriptures, like especially like Jesus calling.
yeah.
Like in that it's like spot on daily. I don't I'm like, how
That's
did
it.
she
I
do
do
that?
like Jesus calling.
Yes. So I think like, but when I'm studying the Bible, like for me, reading and studying the Bible is two separate things. Because like I like the 1 year Bible reading plan, because it breaks it up.
Yeah, it does.
For me, I can easily get kind of bored. If I'm in, you know, something for too long, it's just like, oh, okay. So like when I was attempting to read the Bible for myself the first few times, I didn't. So I'm like, oh, I got to read it from Genesis to Revelation.
Yeah.
And that just did not work for me, because I would get to Numbers, and that's as far as we could go. Because, you know, the
Why
first
was
part,
it in Numbers?
well, the first part of it, it just is talking about the numbers. And I would be like, oh my God. I just would get stuck, because I'm like, when is it going to quit talking about these numbers? I mean, but I'm like, I know that they are sick. They have to be, they're in there for a reason
behind it.
Yeah, like there's a reason why all of these numbers are in here, but I was just like, oh. So I would always get stuck about midway through Numbers, and I was just like, what? I want to, I really do want to read, you know, and get something out of this. So I found out about the 1 year Bible, which, you know, it breaks it up to where you read something in the Old Testament, read something in the New Testament, and then read something in Proverbs and Psalm. So I was not, it was changing the, you know, the scenery kind of quickly, which with the way that my
I get you.
brain will operate,
I can
sometimes
get bored, and then I'll just start like
move to something else.
Move to something else, read it.
So that helped me to read the Bible. But then when I got over into studying it, like I would ask a few people, you know, well, how do you study your Bible? Like, how do you go into a deeper dive? And I remember one of somebody
do you just use a plan? Do you just print? I mean, I've had one before. It's just hard for me to follow one. I don't know. Maybe it's just it's really difficult for me.
That was what it was for me, because somebody gave me a book called How to Study the Bible, I think by Kay Arthur.
That might be helpful.
Yeah. Well, for me, I needed it to be a little more simplified. I'm not saying her book wasn't good. It just wasn't for me. Because I just was like, it had a lot where you put symbols and highlighted stuff, and anybody who, you know, knew about that I couldn't write in books. Like I still have I've kind of broken out of it, but I just would not do it before. I wouldn't write in any book. including my
really?
Bible. I wouldn't highlight in them or nothing. I always had a notebook
Yeah.
that I would write in, and I had one Bible that I would highlight in, and the reason why I did it in that Bible was because when that was my Bible that I took to church, and at the time I was very like I got to be like obedient. And
Yeah.
so when my pastor at the time would say highlight in your Bible, I felt like I was being disobedient if I didn't do it. Uh, so I just had to like but that was the only Bible that I had that I would highlight in until I took and this is just a little bit off of until I went to a small group that we were doing on this book called Fervent. And the small group leader was like, oh, at the end of this small group, I want your books to be like just really worn and highlighted through and just like I
Yeah.
want it to have coffee stains on it because I want you to have just really, take this book and really get into it. The whole time she was saying all that stuff, I'm like, lady, I am not, this book is probably going to look like it looks now because I'm
Yeah.
not doing that. That's why I got his notebook
Yeah.
so I'm saying that in my mind. So a friend of mine is doing the small group with me. And so when she got there, she raises her hand. She was like, she's not gonna do that. She's not gonna write in that book. She's not doing
Yeah.
that. Because she was like, I want stuff underlined. I want you to have notes in it.
I like to underline and to highlight and stuff, but I think I learned that too probably from like my mom and granny because they would
Yes.
always like underline and stuff. So you know how you
Yeah.
kind
Do
of
that.
you
Yeah.
like copy whatever you see.
Yeah. My grandmother did that. Like I have
Mhm.
her
I have my
Bible.
granny's Bible and it's
Yeah.
all written in.
Yeah, that's how hers was. And like I can
Yeah.
open it and like I remember I was reading in her Bible one day and because she would date it. She would
Yes.
date put the date that she was
And put the
reading.
preacher, even though it was
Yeah.
probably the same
So,
preacher for the last 20 years.
well, because she read like every night, she read her Bible every night.
Yeah.
So it would be just like, she just put the date down that she was reading
That's
that
cool.
particular passage. And I was reading the same thing that she was reading on like the same day. It was wow.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
I was like, oh man, this is neat. But I was like, so that like it, I kind of thought about that. I was like, man, like my children would not have anything like this
Yeah.
outside of that one Bible. I was like they wouldn't have had if I wouldn't have felt like I had to be obedient
Yeah.
to highlight or whatever. But I found I've got kind of out of that now because like I said I wouldn't write in nothing, but I think I was like that because in school they kind of hound you at that time because you
Yeah.
had books that were recycled
Right. Don't write
to
them.
not write in books. So I think that may have been why I didn't,
Probably so.
want to do it. But so like going back to the studying, what I do, my process now is because he just had to show me the own way that I was going to get it. And so now what I do is like I'll pick like if I'm reading and just a verse stands out, then I'll write that verse
That's what
down and I'll define the words. Even if I think I know what they mean, I'll define the words.
you'll look it up.
Yeah, I'll look them up. And I like to use an older dictionary because they have, more, and then it can
Oh,
tell
that's
you if
good.
it was from the Latin language or Greek or whatever. So I like to do that. And then that helps me to get a deeper meaning of the scripture.
I feel like now I should like actually study my Bible more. Like I mean, like really like study. Like now that you bring it up, like like I mean, because you read things and like you kind of like, I mean, you are
Yeah.
getting it, but like you said, that it's like a teaching thing. Like when you maybe I feel like I should do that more. That's a good thing
Well,
though.
yeah, but like if but that just helped me to gain deeper understanding, because one of my prayers was when I first started developing my relationship with Christ, was because I did grow up going to church.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any connection to what I grew up doing. And I say that often because I didn't. I didn't read the Bible. I just would pick it up from off of the pew on Sunday, and whatever they said turn to, I would barely get to that before they were not reading it anymore. So I close it up and put it back on the pew. So I'm like, it wasn't even my body, I had one of those small ones, I'm sure, of the New Testament, but didn't read it. It was just something that I was given, and it was just there, but I didn't open it. So I didn't have my own information. I just had somebody else's interpretation of what the word was. And so when I started developing my relationship with Christ, and I was like, well, I'm gonna have to read it, because I feel like that's the only way that I'm gonna really get it and understand. So I asked him at that point to erase everything that I had learned about him, whether it was true or not true, and for him to teach me from his word what I needed to know about him.
Oh, that's
And
good.
so that's how that journey of, like, even just reading the Bible, and then it turned into studying the Bible.
Like studying it.
Yeah. And so
And
that's
like,
just,
well, I like how which I have done that before, but like how you read it and then you're actually like you're looking up like the meanings, like what does this word mean? And
yeah.
like because I feel like a lot of times some of the Bible verses and all of that are sometimes I don't know, maybe we don't read them in the context of which they should be delivered.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot. Yeah.
And so when you read it and you study it and then you can look up like what was the definitions and things like that, then you gain your understanding of like
Yeah.
what does this mean and
Yes.
what is it pertaining to, because we can take random verses just out of the Bible and put it to really anything.
Yeah. And because and there's a lot that what's dangerous about that.
Mhm.
I
Because I'm like, you got to keep reading,
You
because if
gotta
you're
keep, yeah.
because I would read one verse one day and then I kept like was just like reading this like full passage, and like because I
Yeah.
had underlined one verse and I can't remember what it was, and because I mean it was good, it was one of those that like would
Yeah.
stand out, but then I like kept reading it and I was like, I don't really think what I thought that meant. It's like it's
It's like
meaning
what it
something
means. Yeah.
completely different.
And then you've got other verses that can, like, if you've ever heard somebody say the Bible is contradictory.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, it seems that way until like you're reading it in the context and in its entirety. So it's like when you think about Jesus when he was tempted, like with the time that it mentions he was
Yeah.
tempted. Because I'm sure he was tempted more times that, but the time that it mentions he was tempted by the devil was quoting scripture to him.
Yeah.
In a few instances during that temptation. So it's like, why? But Jesus came right back at him
With the word.
So it's like, it's not, that tells you right there that it can be it can be misquoted, it can be misused, it can be, so it's like you can't, that's why we can't just be taking this verse, this one verse and running with it and not going like, okay, what else does he say? And that's why we can't just read just the New Testament or just the Old Testament. We got to read it in its entirety.
Right.
And I think that's a lot of ways, or two is just people taking other people's word for it. I had a guy tell me one time, he was like, when we were talking about understanding the word, and he was like, sometimes if you learn about the different cultures that were in the like the Hebrew culture or the Jewish Jewish culture, or the Roman, learn about the Roman kingdom. It was like,
Mhm.
that'll help you understand the Bible too, because a lot of it is
Mhm.
based on what the culture was.
Yeah,
And
and
I was
how they
like, okay,
live.
like, yes, I was like,
Mhm.
that makes sense, so I was like, well, that's another thing, at that point I was like, okay, I'll add that into my study habit of learning about the background, because I'm like, it's the same way like we were saying earlier about trying to working towards understanding the behavior of a person. We got to know their background
Mhm.
to understand that.
Yeah, that's good.
We got to sit down and ask them some questions. We got to talk to
Mhm.
some people, like, what is it's not it isn't about like what's wrong with you.
Yeah,
What happened that causes you to do that, because something
yeah.
happened that causes you to do that.
Mhm.
So when we can understand from that perspective, I think that that's a good approach for us to have in us learning more.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, I mean, I had like, I used to, and I had to stop this because that was my brain, but like I was reading out of like two or three different Bibles at a time, like trying to like, you know, discover like how this one was said and what it was
Mm-hmm.
stating and things like that, because it was a time when like I don't know how my brain was functioning, but I was like I couldn't like stay focused.
Yeah.
So I would read and I would put one down and then I would open. I mean, like this went on for a long period of time. But
Yeah.
thank goodness, like I don't have to do that anymore. Like I can
Yes.
just sit down and I can like sit and read. But like I used to
Yeah.
couldn't. Like I mean, it would be really
Be.
difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, because I would read something, put it down, and then open up
Yeah.
like another book. I mean, it was like I don't like. Why did I do that?
But that was just how you were doing at the
Hmm.
moment, because like I tell you, I was afraid when I first started reading the Bible. Like I really was, because I was like, I did not, because my mind was going back to when I was a child, and like
Yeah,
I didn't understand it then. I'm not going to understand it now.
yeah,
But the reality was I wasn't even really trying to understand it as a kid. I
yeah.
was, because I
Oh,
wasn't
that's good.
reading it. And so I was just
Or maybe
listening
you
to
were reading
others.
it. You wasn't reading it to actually
Yeah,
comprehend.
to
Yeah.
actually comprehend it. If I had a passage of scripture, I had that passage of scripture because somebody told me I had to memorize it.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like,
In
uh,
Sunday school or something.
yeah. So I'm like, I'm not reading this. I'm not reading this to get it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm reading this because they told me I had to memorize it.
yeah. They told me,
So
or
yeah.
you could win a prize or something. They used to
Yeah.
do that at my church.
So it's like it's a different, kind of a thing. And my great grandmother, one of my great grandmothers, like during the summer, if you were around her at all, that's one of the things that you were going to do.
Yeah,
You were, and it was the 23rd Psalm. Like, well, I know this already, you know.
yeah,
I
yeah,
learned it last summer. Come on, come
yeah,
with something new. It's like now you go in there, you recite you learn the 23rd Psalm, or
yeah,
so it's like, okay, so that was my scope as a
yeah.
child. So when I'm like, I'm gonna have to really read
Read
this,
it.
and
Yeah.
then I went back, I was like, Lord, I don't even know how to study. I don't even remember studying in school for real, so
Yeah.
I don't know how
Like
to
I
do
don't even
this.
remember that.
Yeah, I'm like, shit, how do I even learn? Yeah,
Yeah.
because I was like, I don't even know, like, shit, teach me how
So
I learn.
how long do you um like study? I mean, because I'm going to challenge myself to do this. So, like, to just do it more.
To just do it, like,
I
now
mean,
for
not like read, but actually, like, I
actually
mean,
study.
study it.
Yeah, like for me, I can it just depends on,
I mean, it depends on obviously your
yeah,
day, like
like on
what
how,
season you're in
yeah,
in
and how
life.
deep
Yeah.
going into it, because like I've set for, I know, at least, which is crazy to me, because I can't, like, just on my own, I
Yeah.
cannot just sit and really focus on anything for like 6 hours.
You sit for
Uh,
6 hours.
I
Yeah.
sat for, I know one time I sat for like 6 hours because I was deeply wanting to understand this, you know.
What do you remember what it
Um,
was?
I don't remember.
Said
I
I
do
don't.
not
But I
remember
did it. I
what, but
figured
I
it
know
out.
that because I kept whatever verse it started at,
Yeah.
I just kept finding other verses that connected. And it was just like, oh, like
yeah.
I'm just finding all of these. I'm trying to think of like see if I can recall what verse I
Maybe
came
that's
across.
how I am, because I'm like, I can like I mean, I know a lot of Bible verses, don't get me wrong, but then I'll be
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, and what book, you know,
Yeah.
because I like flip so much.
Yes, it's like, oh, this connects with this. Oh, this verse, you know, goes with this. But what I have noticed, like the verses where I can tell you exactly where they are.
Mhm.
I can tell you the book, I can tell you the chapter, and I can tell you what number the verse is. Those are scriptures that were pivotal, that came into my life, that literally changed the trajectory of it.
Yeah.
Like I've said it on here a bunch of times, I'm sure, because I don't think I can talk without mentioning Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. I don't think I can do it.
Yeah.
Because that was the verses that started that changed the whole way I thought.
Mhm.
And so that's why, like, I can tell you exactly, you know,
That's
I
the
can
lean on.
say it, I can
Don't lean
quote it, I
on
live it.
your own understanding.
Yeah, trust in the Lord with all
Yeah.
your heart,
Right.
not
Oh,
on your own understanding. Yeah,
understand.
and all your ways acknowledge Him, and
Acknowledge
He
him and
will
he'll direct
direct
your
your
path.
path.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's the, you know, I call it the blueprint for life. That's what I call it,
Yeah.
because that's what it is. I'm like, you can apply that scripture to any part of your life,
Yeah.
any part of it, and it will make a difference, because that's the recipe. You just,
It
I don't
really
care what it
is.
is. Yeah,
And because if you're focused on God and where He's leading you, tying it back into what we're talking about, you know, you won't live being offended. I mean, not saying you won't never get offended. You won't
yeah,
live in it.
no,
Not
yeah,
saying that you're not going to ever be offended, but I always say it's kind of like the emotion and feelings. It's like
yes,
you can let it bypass and it's not going to keep you stuck or keep you somewhere for too long.
right. Absolutely.
You know?
Which is you not being, to me, that's not being offended. It's
Yeah.
like
You're
the
right.
offense came, you know, like, yeah, that was offensive, but I'm not offended. You know, I'm not offended because of who I know. I'm not
Yeah.
offended because of who I trust in. I'm not
Yeah.
offended because, like, and that's the way we stay out of becoming bitter. That's the way
Yeah.
we stay from, you know, seeking revenge on people. Like, it, so many things goes into that, because if I'm trusting God and not leaning on my understanding, because
Yeah.
my understanding is going to tell me something totally different,
Yeah.
probably.
Right. Yeah.
And if I'm talking to Him and I'm acknowledging Him about everything, then He's going to tell me what to do. And like that verse was, those two scriptures were so freeing to me during that time in my life, because I felt like I had to figure it out all the time. It was on me. It was just
Yeah.
on me. I got to figure it out. I got to do it. If I don't do it, it's not
Yeah,
going
I
to get
still
done.
struggle with that. So, I mean, not that I don't lean on God, because I talk to God all the time a lot, but there is that still part of me where I'm always trying to figure it out.
Figure it out. Yeah. And that was freeing, because me trying to figure it out was exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exhausting. And I was coming up with nothing at this
Yeah.
particular
Yeah.
like,
I've been trying to figure it out, girl. I've been trying. I got to figure this out. Yeah.
And
God, give me something, please.
and now when I even catch myself saying I got to figure it out, I go, no, wait, no, I don't have to figure this out. I don't have to figure this out. I know what I got to do.
Yeah.
I gotta talk to Him about everything, and He's gonna direct my path. I'm gonna trust Him, Not gonna lean on my understanding because I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to figure it out no ways.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
know what
good.
needs to happen here.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. So it just, and that is where I find refreshing.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes, because when you have to figure it out, it is hard. That's the hard part.
Yeah, that's definitely.
Yes. And we know how we fellowship. We're doing that right now.
Yeah,
So
fellowship's good. It's good for the soul
yes. And
and
it also
spirit.
mentions prayer. I mean, I've come to understand that people have a difficult time with prayer because they feel like they don't know how to do it. And I it's just talking.
I don't have
I'm
elaborate
like,
prayers, but you already know this.
me either.
My prayers are very, 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 very simple. And I write out prayers. I still write out my
Yeah.
prayers. I write out prayers. I've been writing out prayers since I have been a little, my mama can tell you, since I have been a
Yes.
little girl.
I
Did you
saw
teach
that Bible.
did you
Yeah.
teach me to do that? I have. I've been doing it since I've been a little girl. Did you
Yeah.
teach me to write out prayers, or is that just something I started
Something you
doing?
do it.
Okay, so maybe my mama, she taught me to write out my prayers,
Pray.
but like I know I found my old Bible and it was
Yeah.
like the sweetest thing because I was like,
Yes.
oh, that's just so sweet, little girl right down her prayer.
Brighten their prayers. Yeah. And it was sweet.
But you know that habit has stuck with me because even in a season where I was angry with God,
Mhm.
I would still write to God.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't very nice things. I mean, I would be like, I'm angry, I'm
Yeah. But
upset.
you were honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Which he
yeah,
already knows.
yeah, my
Yeah.
mom just said he already knew it. Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He did already knew it. I think,
Yeah.
but I think he likes us to come to him in that manner.
Yes.
But
It's
yeah,
a part of the relationship.
it is part of the relationship. I still like to write out my prayers. I like to write them out because I like to go back and watch how God has
Yeah.
fulfilled them.
Yeah. And that, I think that's a beautiful thing. A part of that, the book that I was talking about earlier, Fervent, it's a book about prayer.
Mhm.
And the movie War Room was based off of that
Right.
book. And I remember in that movie, she said, she asked her grandmother why she wrote her prayers down.
Mhm.
And her grandmother said, so I don't forget,
Yeah.
so I don't forget them.
Yeah,
But
that's good.
but it's like,
Mhm.
but like when you can go back and see how he's answered. And like, I think if we're writing anything down, like how Habakkuk 2:2 talks about writing the vision, making it plain.
Mhm.
I think that's praying because
Mhm.
you're writing down what your desire is.
Yeah.
And that's in it communicate, like when we're communicating, we're talking to him a lot
Yeah.
of the time. And I think when people, think about prayer, they're thinking about, oh, I gotta go to him in this language, like it's like, no, just he's looking for you, because that's exactly what he told me. Because I was just like, I don't know how to pray, I don't know, like I don't pray good. It's like, what does that
I
even
still don't
mean?
really think
Yeah.
that I understand. I kind of, because there would be some people, like when I was at the Foundry, I'm like, man, them girls can pray. Like
They
I want
can
them to
pray.
pray for me. Like
Yeah.
them girls can pray. Like they just could pray. Like
Yes.
just pray. I mean, like in
Yeah.
I
Just
don't, you know what I mean? Like it was
yeah.
just, and I mean, I was just always felt like I am not doing that out loud because
Loud.
mine are
Yes. Like,
so like
yeah.
simplified.
And that's why I'm like, I don't know how to, I'm like, I know people who it just seems like they can pray the paint off the walls,
I
like,
know.
but I remember, I was saying that like literally to God one day, like, I won't pray like such and such. And he
I
said,
know.
he
Yeah.
was like, I know you don't, because that you're not such and such.
Yeah.
if I want to talk, when they talk to me, I hear them, I'm looking for you. I'm looking for
Yeah.
you. I'm after your heart. I'm
Mhm.
their heart is theirs, yours is yours. And that there taught me to not ever try to go to him like I was somebody else, because
And
he's
that
with
goes back to the
me.
freedom. He got the
Yeah.
freedom to let people be who they are.
Yeah.
Because some people are. I mean that. I feel like that may be like what like a gift. If you're able to do that, especially like
Yeah.
publicly,
Yeah.
it's a gift. I mean, I myself don't feel like that's one of my gifts,
I don't
but
either. It's not my
but I
gifting.
think that we all have. That's why he gives us our own gifts, and we
Yes.
have to use what he gave us. Use what
Yes.
the good Lord gave you. So
Yes.
it's kind of like in a job. It's like you put people in positions, where hopefully, they can thrive in, because we all can't
Yeah.
thrive in the same position.
Right.
So it's like delegating, that's the same with what we're good at, even our spiritual gifts. It's like we're all,
Yes.
and that's what makes community and fellowship so great, is when you
Yeah.
come together and you all have your different, resources and gifts that you can help each other.
Yeah. And operating in what he's gifted you to
That's the
do.
biggest thing. Yeah.
Like, find out what he's put in you,
Yeah.
what your call is, and do that. Don't try to be somebody else. And that was a big lesson. Like, I can only be me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not trying to be anybody else. I don't want to be, if he,
Because
like I
it could
said.
be exhausting too. Like, why
Yeah.
do
like
that?
like
God's called you to be who you are. So
yeah. He didn't call me to be, he didn't make me to be somebody else. He went, that's why he made all of us
yeah.
who we, who we are. And if we're constantly trying to not live our life and trying to live somebody else's, that we're gonna always be disappointed.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to be grateful. I just see a lot of ways that affects people.
It does.
Um,
It does. I mean, and it definitely can. I mean, not. I know personally. And I have not now, but
yeah.
because I'm just not in. It doesn't. Things don't bother me like they used to. But of course, when I was like going through stuff and struggling, I always felt like I'm not where I need to be, doing what I need.
Yeah.
And then you would feel like, oh, well, why don't I have this? And
Hmm.
it's so
Yeah.
stupid.
That's hard.
It's
That's the hard living. If
and
you're
then
constantly,
and it don't get you nowhere.
mm-mm,
Just being stuck in something like that.
that, yeah.
The biggest thing is being content with where you are. When I started being content with the season that I was in,
Yes.
my life started to change.
Yeah.
Because I kept trying to stop. I mean, I just was like, okay, well, I'll use me with the how whatever you want to use me in right now. And when I
Yeah.
started doing that, it's just like, that's when you feel like, okay, now I'm going to
Yeah.
honor you with whatever you want me to do right now.
Yes. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what it
It,
is.
it
It's
was
like,
when I was at home, when I was staying at home, and I felt like I should be doing something, and it was
yeah.
in everybody, I felt like everybody else wanted me to be doing something. But I mean, in my heart, I kind of felt like I was where I would needed to be. But
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah. And because you were doing something.
Yeah.
You
But
were
that
doing
goes
something.
back to you gotta trust you and whatever you feel like God has called you to do.
Yes. Like, I was talking to somebody on Thursday. She We had planned to go to lunch, because she wanted me to tell her how, how I got into what I get to do on a daily basis. And so when we sat down to talk, she was like, okay, tell me your life history. And I was like, okay. I said, where she was like, well, start with how you got into, how you got into counseling, how you got into doing what you get to do now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to tell her how I got there. I had to start, with my whole going back to like 2013. And so I was, telling her about how God had in my telling her all of this, I had to, because there was so many moving parts to how I got into to what I get to do now. But in that, like, where I saw, and then I was thinking about this after the fact that I had talked to her. I was like, number one, she gave me a little more insight into my own life.
Okay.
That by something that she said. She was like, you know what, she's like, everything that you just said to me points to trusting God. And I was like, man, like, I knew I had grown in that area of trusting God, because, like, that I didn't trust any, like, it was 3 people in my life that I had levels of trust for. And that was levels. Like, I didn't even trust them fully with a lot, a lot. So I didn't trust. I had real trust issues. And so for me to go from that to trusting God, to now, like, when people ask me, well, how do you trust people? I'm like, I don't have to. I mean, but it's not in the way of like it was before. I had an unhealthy distrust of people. Now it's just like, I like neither trust them or don't trust them. It doesn't matter, because I trust God, like, so in my, like, she was like, man, it just seems like you just trusted God and you didn't have any fear in what he was telling you to do. And I said, and I was like, man, like, I didn't even think about that part of it, about, like, I was like, yeah, I really I didn't have much fear. Like, I was like, now
you did kind of take big steps without, and you were trusting God's, like, protection, like guidance. Like, he's gonna take care of it.
He's
And he
gonna do it.
did.
Yeah, and he did it. But, like, I'm like, even before, I was like, he had to slowly take me through,
He did.
like, some slowly, like, letting go of my dependence on me. Because because I didn't trust anybody for real. I was trusting me. And he had to take me from, like, no, you can't even trust you. Like, you got to trust me. And so for me now, that's something that I talk about. I literally harp on it, really, about trusting God. I'm like, trust God, just trust. Man, people like, how do you do that? And I almost just be like, just do it, like, just do it, just choose to do it. But that's literally, like, it was for me. Like, there was this whole thing, because, like, I was telling her about how I was doing, like, 4 jobs.
You were something ridiculous.
It was crazy.
I was like, I don't even know where she slept.
It was crazy. I was doing 4 things, and was doing that, and I was seeing a pain. I was under a pain management specialist, because my body would hurt from the top of my head to the tips of my toes every day. And it was very difficult for me to get up, like, for me to get up in the mornings. So when I would, it was just,
He
it
said,
was
you're
just
doing
hard.
too much.
Yeah. And then I'm wondering why I don't, so I'm under this pain specialist, and I remember one day him asking me how many jobs I had. And so I was like, I didn't want to tell him.
Did it go back to the security of, if I could just I
Yeah.
need to make sure like my family's taken care of. I have to do it.
I gotta do it. Yes, it was
I've got to
all of
do
that.
it. It's, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm the one, ain't nobody up here helping me.
Yeah.
Like, I have to make it happen for everyone.
Yes, it's
Mm.
on me. Now I
Mhm.
had help, you know what I'm saying, but it was
Yeah.
still, it's on me. If I don't do it, it's not gonna get done. It because I was very independent.
Mhm.
And that all of that stem from long,
Yeah.
years ago. So I was very independent. I got to do it. If I don't do it, it's not gonna get done. I got these three people that I'm responsible for.
Mhm.
So I gotta get it. And so Jess was doing crazy stuff. Like nobody
Yeah.
should be trying to do four things. It's just nuts. And so in that, when I was telling her about that, I was doing his job. I was under this pain specialist, and he asked me how many jobs I had, and I did not want to tell him, so I lied. And I said, and I lied and said it under my breath. I was like, 2. And he was like, what did you say? And I said, 2. I have 2 jobs. Now, I did not have 2 jobs.
I had
I
4.
actively had 4 jobs. And he said, what? I'm gonna make it to where you won't be able to work. I'm gonna put you on disability if you don't cut it out. You would have thought he said he was gonna harm my entire family. Because I was like, no, no.
Yeah.
Dude, I gotta work. I can't not work.
Mhm.
And so I was like, well, I had decided at that moment that I was not ever going to see him again.
Yeah.
Because
He's not telling me what I want to hear, so he's out.
he's trying to make me go home. And so I was like, So I was sitting on my part-time job. So I had a full-time job, I had a part-time job, and I had 2 jobs that I was doing like flex. And so I was sitting on the part-time job, and I was reading in Proverbs. And so the way it happened, I'm not sure if I was reading in Philippians and then he took me to Proverbs, or if it was vice versa, but I know it was both P's. I know it was Philippians and Proverbs. So he asked, I was reading Philippians 4:19 and just kind of heard this question from the Lord. Do you see your name anywhere in there? And so Philippians 4:19 is, but my God shall supply all of your needs according to his riches and glory by Christ Jesus. So I was like, well, no, my name is not in there. He was like, that's because I didn't tell you were going to supply your needs. I said I was going to do it. Okay. that is what that says. So I go, okay. So then I'm reading in Proverbs, and I think it was Proverbs 23:4, and it basically says something about not working just to eat. And I go, oh, okay. Oh, all right. Okay.
All right, Lord, what are you trying to tell me here?
So then I had to turn in my resignation from that job. So I turned in my resignation from that job. And after doing that, so this is how he began to teach me about depending on him. So that was like the ending, into the ending of December. So I turned in my resignation. So it was a 2-week notice. So I did a 2-week notice. And so we were going into 21 days of prayer and fasting at church. So we were ending by the time that we were in that, and I had worked out my 2-week notice, before we ended the 21 days of prayer, I had gotten my last check from them. And so when 21 days of prayer ended, was when I would have been getting another check if I wouldn't have turned, if I wouldn't have left. And so I'm talking to a friend after, and she hands me an envelope, and she says, hey, the Lord told me to give you this. It's not much, just do what you need to do with it. So I was like, okay. So I just, took the envelope. We kept talking, and When I got home, I opened it and it was the exact amount that I would have gotten
And that's so cool
from,
how God does that.
yeah. So I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
So that was just wild to me. So 2 weeks later, when I would have been getting another check, I'm at church on that Sunday, and another friend comes up. She does the exact same thing. She says, she's like, I was supposed to give you this after 21 days of prayer, but I didn't see you.
Wow.
And I was like, well, I was there. I was like, I was here. She was she was like, well, I couldn't find you. I didn't see you. So she was like, but I was, the Lord told me to give you this. Said the same thing. Lord told me to give it. It's not much. Just do what you need to do with it.
Yeah.
So there again, took the envelope. When I got home, did the same thing, and it was the exact same amount. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
Okay.
God's like, I will supply.
Yeah, like I told you, I'm the one that's gonna supply you. You just you ask, you talk to me about, like, I got you. So I was like, okay. So when it rolled around to 2013, and like, just talk about a horrible situation, like horrible situation. Life was just not good. It was bad. It was financially bad. It was just bad.
It was just a bad time.
It was just a bad time. And my oldest was there was some, they were going to do some testing because he was able to stay in school until he was 21. And so, like, when you have something, something is coming, but it's like, oh my gosh, it's like here.
It's here. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted him to be able to have the opportunities that were, options as to what he could do. And I didn't want to put him, like, I didn't want anybody else to be responsible for transporting him places, because he still wasn't like where he would talk to people for real. So I was like, I don't want him getting dropped off somewhere where he ain't supposed to be, and then nobody know, So those were concerns. Yeah, those were concerns of mine. So now this is crazy. It was crazy to me, but this is what I feel like he was telling me to do. So I was working full time, right? So I let the other 3 things go that I was doing. So I'm only working full time. And I go to my supervisors at the time and I say, hey, I need to work part-time. Why on earth would I need to work part-time?
You just when like I'm
already, I'm already not doing good. What I need to do is go pick up these 3 more jobs that I let go. So I'm like, this is what I feel like I need to do, because they were going to be doing all of this testing stuff on him, and they had this opportunity for him to like do a work in a little place.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I'll be able to take him, pick him up, and all of that, because it was like a 8 to 12 kind of a did for him. So they go, okay. So now I'm doing part-time. Crazy. So then a few weeks into that, I tell the supervisor, and I don't even know why I'm telling her this. I tell her, I say, hey, you might need to find somebody to do this full-time, because I don't know how long I'm gonna be here. Now, this place, I don't work for them for 11 years.
I was gonna say a long time, wasn't you?
Yeah. And so
you just randomly said, hey, I don't think I will be doing this much.
I don't know how long I'm gonna be here. And she said, I don't even know why I'm telling her this.
Yeah.
And she says, you're not going in. This is
you're not going anywhere. Just
you're not.
You're
going
having
anywhere.
a bad day.
And I go, okay. And I just left it at that. Okay. So now we get to August, and we're in August, and we're in 21 days of prayer for August. And I go, okay, Lord, like, what do I need to do to help my situation? It's that prayer. What do I need to do to help my situation? Now, I don't know what he's going to say, but what he says, I don't expect him to say. So he says, leave. Okay, I'm already part-time. I don't know why I'm that, because that was nuts. Leave. So I'm like, oh, so I'm like, leave. So I said, Lord, I don't, I mean, it's bad
Yeah.
already.
Yeah, you're like, I don't even know how we're gonna pay this water bill, and you telling me to
Yeah.
leave.
And you telling me to leave, it's already bad.
Yeah.
And now I gotta leave. So I'm like, oh my God. So then I said, well, because now I don't have another job lined up, and
Yeah.
I don't do that. I didn't do that. Like I had done that one other time, and I was living with my mama at that point, and I called
Yeah.
her before I did it and asked her, could I do it? Because it was a situation going on. So I was like, hey, like, Mom, like this, can I, do this? And she was like, do I need to come over there? No, you don't need to come over here and do that to nobody.
Yeah.
But here's the situation.
Yeah.
And so she was like, oh, well, yes, you feel that strongly. Of course, you can leave. So I ain't have no real responsibilities. I had kids at that
Yeah.
point, but I wasn't responsible for
Yeah.
the roof over our head and stuff like that. So, but at this point, I am responsible for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, leave? Oh, I was like, this is crazy. So I had a guy that I was working with at the time that was trying to help me to figure out my finances, because they were horrible.
Yeah.
And and he was like, I don't know how you've been making it up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like, this is, looking at it, he was like, it looks like you should be okay, but you are not okay. I'm like, no, I'm like, yeah, I'm like, first of all, I suck at money. I just suck at handling money. That was the first problem. But there were other things, like it was just other stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, okay. So I was like, leave, Lord, like, you sure you want me to leave? He was like, leave. And then he said, take your retirement and start over. So I'm like, okay. So I go, okay, I don't know what you're doing here, Lord, but I trust you. Because I'm like, I don't know. I don't have another job. Don't know where I'm going. None of that. So I'm like, and it ain't that much retirement. I mean, I've been there 11 years, but it ain't that much.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. So I do my resignation. Now this time I'm gonna try to help, right? So I'm turning in my resignation for 3 months. So I put that I'll be there for 3 months. So I do that, and now I hadn't talked to human resources or anything at this point. I just do the resignation, and I'm gonna do it for 3 months. So that'll give them time to find somebody to, take my place and all that kind of stuff. So I turned in the resignation for 3 months. Well, I was like, people were like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have to go. And they're like, no. Like, you don't have to. No. What can we do to get you to stay? I'm like, it's nothing. It has nothing to do with, I liked my job, loved the people that I worked with. It was just time for me to go. And I was like, I gotta go. And they were like, no. So director comes talk to me, like, it's just a whole lot of like not wanting to accept that I gotta go.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, I got to go. So I go and I talk to human resources. So I didn't do this in the right order. I should have talked to human resources first.
Yeah.
So I go and talk to them, and the dude is like, well, if you're leaving in November, then you can't get your retirement until January.
You're like,
So
I'm gonna have to get it right away.
Yes, I was like, oh my goodness. So I'm thinking, like, my kids at this point, they were teenagers, but I'm like, still, we're going into Christmas and all this. So I'm like, man, I said, well, when would I have to leave in order for me to get it? He was like, now. He was like, next week.
He said now.
So now we're like a weekend, we're like a weekend to the 3 month resignation. So now I got to go back to them and I got to retract that and say, I got to leave next week.
Oh my goodness.
So now it's like, what? You know, like,
What are
no,
you
like,
doing?
what are you nuts? You know? And so, so then people like, but you have kids. I'm like, yeah, I know, I was there. I know.
You said I was
know,
there.
I know I have them. Yes. But what are you gonna do about insurance? I said, we're just not gonna get sick. Like,
We're just not gonna get sick.
We're just not gonna get sick. And well, what I know, and then somebody said, I know you have another job. I said, I don't. If I had another job, I would have told you that.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm the same person that have been down because we used to they used to have buses that took us to our buildings because our parking was far away from our building. So I'm like, I'm the same person that has been down there at the bus terminal waiting for the bus to bring me up here and just call you and say, hey, I can't come today. I'm not coming. And they go, well, are you sick? No, some just tell me not to come. I'm that same person. So why on earth would I lie to you?
You would be waiting for the bus to come and just be like, no, not today.
Yeah, I'm like, I literally have been that person. Was down there waiting on the bus and was just like, I just don't need to go in here today. Like, I done drove over here, but I don't need to go in here today. Yeah. And have called and said, hey, I'm not coming. Then go, are you not feeling well? Are you sick? No, I'm not sick. I just can't come today. If I'll tell you that, why on earth would I not be like, oh yeah, I got another job? I'm like, I done told y'all when I went on other interviews for like, why would I not? So it's like, okay, so I'm like, no, I don't have another job. I literally don't know when my last day here, I don't know what I'm going to be doing the next day. But because that was so out of character for me, that's why people thought it was, including myself, I thought it was nuts too. But I felt like that's what he told me to do. So that's what I, did. And it was one lady that worked with me, who said, she said, Donna, she said, I know everybody else thinks you're nuts. and they don't understand why you're doing what you're doing. She's like, but I want you to know that I get it. I want you to know I understand why you're making the moves that you're making. And I said, thank you, I appreciate that. And my aunt told me the same thing. She said, I know other people are trying to add fear to you right now. She was like, but I'm going to add my faith with yours because I 100% believe that you're doing what God is telling you to do. And I was like, thank you. Somebody, like somebody understands. I'm not losing it here. Yeah. It's just, this is what he's telling me to do. And so I think about that verse that talks about the how stuff with many counselors. It's in Proverbs. I know it's in Proverbs somewhere, but it talks about how basically how you'll be successful with the counsel of many or something like that. But like at the time and too, I was going, like I was talking to had the financial dude trying to figure out stuff, and I was talking to different people, but everybody I talked to that was in that process, they were like, well, yeah, I don't know if you have any other options but that. Like, what other options? So they would ask, what other options do you have? Like, I don't have any other options. Yeah. I'm like, so I guess this leaving is just what I got to do. So I go, so I leave, and they tell me that I'm never gonna, because I had to retract that notice, that I'll never be able to work for this company again.
Oh goodness.
And I go, okay.
You're good. Hey, I want to interrupt. So Proverbs 15:22 is without consultation and wise advice, plans are frustrated, but with many counselors, they are established and succeed.
Yes.
Then there's where there's no guidance, a people falls, but in abundance of counselors, there is safety.
That's it. The abundance of counselors, there is safety. Yeah. So like I had, so I had people that, were looking at different things and trying to help me, figure out stuff. But when I went to the Lord in prayer, that was the ultimate counselor.
Yeah.
And so then like the financial guy, when I was explaining, like stuff to him and telling him, what I had heard from the Lord, he said, well, then that's the only way that you have. He was like, because I ain't coming up with nothing. Like, I haven't really come up with nothing to, but like if that's the only option you have. And so with that, taking just so I'm like, okay, this is what I gotta, this is so when it's like, well, you're not gonna ever be able to work for this company again. That was the last tactic to try to get me to not do. And I said, listen, if I'm not sure about anything else in life, I'm sure about this.
I'm sure. I feel confident in that decision.
Yeah, that this is what the Lord, I was like, this has nothing to do with anybody else, is what the Lord wants me to do. My time is up here. I gotta go.
Mm-hmm.
And I left. And within that leaving that entire year, because that was September the 10th, 2013 was when I left there. And from that time to September the 10th, 2014, what I did was there was a little job that I did on Wednesdays. I only did it on Wednesdays for like 4 hours at that, if it was 4 hours. And that was, I would be in our restroom at church, because that was during the time where we had service every Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing of what I did was I refilled the napkins in the bathroom, refilled the napkins, and gathered the trash and put it in I didn't even have to take the trash out to the bin. I just threw it in a room. I did that on Wednesdays. And then the rest of the time I was, so the next day after because like I said, I didn't know, I was like, when I wake up on the 11th, I have no idea what I'm going to be doing. doing. So in that time, a friend of mine, her mom, had been ill. And so she had been off taking care of her. And she had gotten to the point to where she was having to go to the doctor more frequently. And we were talking, and she was just like, man, I need to go back to work, but I don't want to put her, on like a medical transportation type van, where they have to be responsible for, because she had a fall after she was had a terminal illness anyway, but she was like, she had in addition had a fall and was having to do physical therapy. And so I said, well, I mean, I'm not doing anything. I can take her, that way you can go to work. She was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much, I'll pay you. And I was like, no, you won't. I was like, you don't have to pay, because this is just my friend, I'm gonna help my friend. And she's like, no, I'm going to pay you. And so I'm like, I mean, if you just insist upon doing that. And so I was taking her mom, to the doctor, and she was paying me to do that. And then another friend, I was talking, and somebody that was picking her son up on like Fridays had just told her that they couldn't pick him up anymore. And she was like, man, like I really just, I don't know what I'm going to do. She was like, cause Fridays, I just don't need to have to leave early. On Fridays to go and pick him up. And so I got to figure this out. And so I was like, I can pick him up. I'm not doing it, because I was not
doing anything.
So I was like, I can pick him up. She was like, oh my gosh, you'll do. I was like, yeah. I was like, I can pick him up. And so she was like, man, thank you so much. I'm going to pay you. And I was like, no, you don't have to pay me. I'll just pick him. She's like, no, I'm going to pay. So there he's providing
He's
again because I
He's
just
still providing, but
yeah because
you would
I
have done
just
it regardless, you
would
know?
have done it regardless. Just like
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting anything from them. And so he just was providing that way. And
Yeah.
so I got got the retirement, paid the stuff off that I needed to pay off, was able to just, do what I needed to do in that year. Never missed a beat.
Mm-hmm.
Never like with me working doing those four things, something was always out of whack.
Yeah.
Never missed a beat. And so we get to 21 days of prayer in August of 2014. And I'm like, Lord, I like what I'm getting to do, like the flexibility in my day, like all of that. But if there's something else you want me to do, you're going to have to show it to me because I don't even know where to start. And I that was just my prayer. And I was like, but here's what I don't want. I was like, I don't want to be behind a desk all day, stuck on the telephone and at a computer. I don't want to do that. And I was like, I'm a jeans and t-shirt type of a chick. If that can be the the uniform, if you will, then that's cool.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll dress up if I have to, but
Yeah.
I don't really want to. I said, and if it could just remain flexible. That's just what my request is. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done.
Yeah.
Like, so 2 weeks later, my phone rings and it's a friend that was working at the foundry. And she was like, I know you're in like transition or whatever, but I have this opportunity come up. And if you're interested, I want you to, I need you to kind of act on it quickly, basically. And so she was like, what the foundry is, right? So when she started telling me about the foundry, I was like, yeah. I said, isn't that place that has the recovery for like men? Because that's the scope of what I knew about the foundry. Yeah. And she goes, oh, let me tell you. So she starts telling me about the foundry. And I'm like, what? Like, oh my goodness, yes, I would love to be a part of this.
Yeah.
So she says, I need you to think, pray about it, but let me know kind of quickly. So we hang up and I go, well, I already prayed about it because I said if something else you want me to do, you're going to have to show it to me because I don't even know where to start. And she called me. So I was like, I think I'd be kind of nuts not to go for it, to go for it. So she texts me about 12 o'clock that day. Have you prayed yet? And I was like, actually, I did. And I was like, yeah, I want to do it. So she was like, great, like send me your resume right now. So we got all that done. And that's how I got to the foundry. Was being obedient to what he told me to leave. Because I when I tell you, I was not, my job wasn't a problem. Like nobody there was a problem. Like,
yeah.
So I didn't.
But God just had, he was directing your path.
Yeah. And so he was doing
but
that.
You had to be obedient and trusting him to follow that guidance.
Follow it. Yes. I had to be willing to do it. And I was just like, and I remember Joyce Meyer saying, do it afraid. I would remember her saying that, do it afraid. And I'm like, this is scary as I don't know what, because
I always say, even if it's uncomfortable, because all new things, a new start, new move, new anything can be uncomfortable.
But do
it. Just do it. Just take the first step.
Take the first step and just do it. And I don't know how we got into that, but either way,
it ties back in though to just trusting God, trusting his guidance and following him and what he has for you.
Yes, it just works out when you do it. I haven't had a time when he's told me to move, and that was drastic for me. That was because I didn't do that. Like I don't. I'm like,
because you had a really good job. I mean, you had a very stable job.
Yeah, very stable. very, I mean, nobody, and here's the thing about where I work, nobody left there. Like, nobody left there. People died, and that's how they left there. But they didn't, it wasn't really, no, you just leave.
It wasn't a high turnover. Like,
no, not at all.
On.
Not at all. So like it was just it was a odd, it was just like whoa. And I think that was what was so like kind of the resistance from, that like, no, like, no, you can't
stay on with us.
But I'm like, I have to, above anything, I have to do what the Lord tells me to do. I can't.
But I mean, now that you followed that path and those directions to move,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you couldn't imagine being on a different path now. And
no.
Actually just being able to do what you do now.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Because I definitely feel like God's called you, to where you are now. Obviously, I mean, of course He has, but I know now. And when you look back, you can understand.
I can understand, because I'm like because I literally said, Lord, I don't know what you're doing here, because I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're doing here.
I don't know what you're doing here.
What you're doing here, but I trust you. And
but I love that you trusted Him, through that like year.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like,
yeah.
It wasn't like He just handed you like, hey, this is what the field I've actually called you for.
Yeah.
Like 2 weeks later. It wasn't like that. It was, he was still providing, He was still guiding, but He was also letting you like almost like walk out your faith.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and live it out.
Live it out
and live it out.
and live it out. And he was preparing me. He was preparing me for what was to come, because like in that season, I was able to serve at church more, and during the weeks that we had where we used to do what we call the cafe at our dream center. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays from like 9 to 12, we would people would come, and so I got to meet and help just a vast array of people. And like with hang out with the social worker that worked at the health center that was connected to the church. And so it was just like just a time of Him preparing me for what was coming. And I didn't realize, at the time, I was just having a good time. I really was. Like I was having a good time, and just in learning in the process of that. And so when the foundry, the position at the foundry came along, because it was just, it was a no-brainer to go into it,
And but you like I said, like you walked, you took action and just followed whatever His guidance was and is. I mean, continually.
Yeah. And that's that's why it's easy for me to do that now.
Yeah.
It's easy for me to do that now. And I don't, and I think sometimes like, I don't know what people are thinking. But like, just sometimes when I'm talking about trusting God, I think that it comes off as kind of like that it is easy for me. Because now it is, but I'm like, there was a time where it wasn't. Like there was a time where it wasn't that simple. He had to take me through a series of giving up stuff here and there. And trusting Him in the, I'm saying, then I could trust Him in the bigger. So I'm like, so now it's like, because I've had to practice it, for so long, that it becomes
more automatic then.
Yeah, it is a more automatic response for me. And I think that sometimes when I'm talking to people about trusting Him, it's like kind of almost like, and it's in the response that I get is why I say that. I think that there's this thought of like, oh my gosh, it's easier said than done. Like I know, because I've been I've been where you are in this
Yeah.
moment, but I'm like, if you do
But
it
I
here,
trust God now because of what He's done for me in the past.
yeah. So I'm like, I'm
I
coming
I
from
trust Him
that.
like because like if
Yeah.
He did it for me then, He's gonna do it for me now.
Yes. He's never let me
He
down.
doesn't change. We
He
do.
doesn't. We do. And I'm like, he is not, he's never gonna let you down. And I
Mhm.
think that just in sometimes like I think my confidence in it, in
Mhm.
him, sometimes like people, they it's well, it's a and I'm like, I'm not saying that you're where I am. I'm
Yeah.
just telling you you can get there if you choose to. But you got to start trusting them somewhere.
You have to.
So I'm like,
The
that's the
biggest thing is
only,
just
yeah,
you just got to start somewhere.
you just got to start somewhere. And I'm like, why not start here? Why not start now?
Mhm.
In the trusting him. So I'm like, I'm not trying to come off as like just a kind of like just like that I don't understand what you're, where they're
Kind of
coming
like
from.
the way I kind of look at it too. Sometimes is like that. People are like that prosperity, like preaching or whatever. Like you're gonna get that. Like this kind of.
Yeah.
If you just trust, if you just do this. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I'd like like that positive, like prophesying. Like I mean, I enjoy some of it, but also
Yeah.
like you know, I believe yes, God wants that and does all that, but I also think He takes you through things for Him
Yeah.
to show you what that is,
Yeah.
and so through experiences.
Says
But
yes.
like it made me just think about that when you were like, because I get that response. Well, it's easier said than done. It's easy for you because look, you're not. A lot of people don't realize. Well, I had to go through it too.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, you're looking at a semi-finished product on that end. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? But it's like, and that goes back to like, if you ask me the questions about how I got there, I'll tell you, you know what I'm saying? Because that's a lot to put into,
Yeah. To
you know,
unpack.
to unpack. But I'm like, but I'm telling you, I'm just saying how I got here, how I got here as
Hmm.
to what you're saying, like what you're saying, like, I wish I could, because I hear that too. I wish I could have trust him like you trust him. You can like you can. It's just, but you got to start somewhere.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, I did not get there like without the action of actually doing it. Like, if I would have
Hmm.
never, that's what I tell them. I'm like, if I would have never left where I was, I don't even know if I'd be alive to talk to you today with the
Yeah.
way my body was functioning.
Yeah.
Like, it was bad. I mean, it was rough. And I tell you, when I left there, I had to go and see my doctor. Like, I think I had to go and see her like a week or two later after I left. And I'm telling you, like, my numbers, my blood pressure, all this bad. Numbers were bad. And and
I'm
when I
not
saw
laughing
her,
like it's bad. It's just the way you're
this is
delivering
bad.
it.
Yeah, yeah. So when I went to see her and she was looking at my chart, she was like, Donna. Now, and this, so for her, like, she had known me for, like, she had been my
Yeah.
doctor for a long time. And I worked for her husband. So we had even another, type of
Hmm.
relationship because I worked for her husband. Well, he was one of the doctors that I worked for. And so she knew what was going
Hmm.
on with me leaving and stuff and
Hmm.
how people felt about it. People felt
Yeah.
about it. And so when I went to see her, after I had been gone from there, it may have been like 2 or 3 weeks when I was gone from there. And she said, Donna, she said, I know people thought you were nuts with the decision that you made to leave. She was like, but I tell you that I believe health wise, that was the best decision you could have made. She
Mm.
was like, I'm looking at your numbers and they are better than they have ever been.
Wow.
And I was like, I didn't even know, even though I liked what I was doing. It was just a stress of everything else that was going on.
I mean, I'm sure it still was stressful though, and you're still, maybe you needed a timeout.
I needed yes, but
You
I was
needed a
refusing.
timeout.
I was refusing to do it because I really knew. I had the thought, rather. I won't say I knew. I had the thought that I should leave 2.5 years before that.
Mm,
It was just like I had this thought of there was something else I was supposed to be doing. I just didn't know what it was.
yeah.
And because I was relying on me and I gotta know.
Yeah.
If I'm on a leave here, I gotta know where I'm going.
I gotta go. I gotta know what's next.
I gotta
'Cause
know
I
what's
ain't just about
next.
to like up and
Yeah. And he
pack.
was like, no, you don't. Like
Yeah.
what you gotta do is trust me and I got you.
Mm.
And so just he had to like I believe those things were orchestrated like in my
I believe
finances because
so.
nobody could figure out why I was in the just red like I was. Like it was like you make enough money. Like we
Yeah.
don't get why why it doesn't look like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I don't either. Because I kept asking when they say you make enough money, I'm like, well, where is it? You're saying that, but I'm not getting it. I don't know where it's going,
Yeah.
but it's not
You're
coming to
telling me I
me.
make enough money, but I
You're
don't know.
telling me this, but I act, and then they would go, but yeah, your bottom line doesn't say. So that's what so tell me what's happening? What's the
Yeah.
problem?
What's
I
going
don't
on?
know. Yeah, you make more than enough money to be able to support it. And I
Yeah.
couldn't get no help. Like no,
Mhm.
like people that said, well, go, for like for childcare and stuff, go to I was like, I have. They tell me because they would tell me the same thing that I made
Did
too
you
much
make too
money.
much money?
Have you thought about food stamps? I tried that to tell me I make too much money.
Too much money.
If you thought about get help with housing, I tried it to tell me I make too much money. I'm like, I said, I guess I gotta be destitute to get help. I don't know. But you got 3 kids. I know, I was there. I know that it's 3 of them. Stop saying it.
I know that there's
Like,
3,
know
but
that there's
also I
3.
know that I'm the only one trying to support this household.
And I'm like, nobody. Like they tell me they can't, they won't. They can't and they won't help me.
I hate to hear that. I don't know. Like I have so much respect for one in like a households like mothers and all of that. Like I can't even imagine.
Man, I'm telling you, and people think you lying when you
I
say won't help
can't.
you.
I can't even.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. Like I mean that the struggle in that. I mean that would be
Yeah.
difficult.
Like when it's on, when you feel, and like I said, I had my family very, I mean, helpful.
Yeah.
Their dads helpful.
Mhm.
Like, so it wasn't like I was a single mother. So when I would say that I was a single mother, like, and I get why this happens. When I would say I was a single mother, people would go, oh my gosh, so do they know their dads at all? Do they be like, yeah. Like
Yeah.
they spend time with them. I mean, they, like they're active. But I would go,
That's hilarious.
I'm like, but I get why, because most people,
Mm,
when they say they're single mothers, they don't have any support. They
yeah.
don't have. And so I was like, no, I'm
Yeah,
saying
have
I'm
support.
I'm saying I'm a single mother in the vein
Mhm.
of I'm not married. That's
Yeah.
what, I was like, I'm that's the only part I'm
Yeah.
saying about I'm active, I'm not married. But I'm like, no, their fathers are active,
Yeah.
in their lives. I'm just like, as far as, and to me too, because I wasn't the type like, take care of your children. You don't have to take care of me.
Yeah, of
I'm a,
course.
I'm responsible for me and them either way, whether you do what you're supposed to do or not. That was
Mhm.
always my stance. I'm responsible for me and these 3 people.
Yeah.
So if you gonna do what you need to do, cool. But they gonna still be straight even if you don't.
Yeah.
So that was what was driving
That was
that
driving.
behavior.
Mhm.
Yeah, like my mentality was driving that behavior, which is why I was doing 4 things
4 things.
at one time. Yeah, because I'm gonna be all right regardless.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna be fine. I'm
Yeah.
gonna pretend that I can do it.
yeah, I got this,
Yeah.
and it's like I don't got this.
Yeah. Like, I don't need anything from
yeah.
you.
Yeah, I don't need, and so I had that false belief running, you remember
Mhm.
out of the Genesis process, I don't need
Yeah.
anybody. I
I
completely,
don't need anybody.
yeah, I had that one running. I clearly needed help.
Yeah.
Clearly needed help, but in a lot of ways, just I'm not gonna ask for it. I'm not gonna in some instances it's like I'm not gonna ask for help. I'm just gonna suck it up, buttercup, and get it done.
Mhm.
But it's like that's just not a great it's not a great attitude to
Yeah.
have. It's actually
Well,
detrimental to your
you
health.
didn't know that at the time, you know?
Mm-mm.
You were
I
just like,
didn't.
I'm gonna be okay. But with
Yeah.
that, you come sacrificing your health.
Yeah.
You
Not
know?
knowing that, like I'm actively harming I'm
Yeah.
actively harming myself. Because I would at this point I would classify myself as a workaholic. I believe I was
Oh, I
definitely,
definitely would say that.
yeah, I was definitely a workaholic, and that was that was a learned behavior. Uh, that was also a learned behavior for me as well.
Well, your dad
My
too.
dad,
I was gonna
yeah,
say I was like, we had your dad on here. I think there were similarities.
yes,
I remember
yes,
hearing there were similarities.
yeah. So I that was a learned behavior for me. So it's like, why ask somebody to do what you can do for yourself?
Hmm.
Kind of stuff, and
Yeah,
yeah.
he
So it
was
was
fun.
a lot of stuff running that behavior. But yeah, when I think back of I'm like, man, thank you, Lord, for saving me from myself.
Yeah.
I needed it. I needed to be saved from myself. And he absolutely did it. But yes, this has been an awesome talk. Awesome
Yes,
talk.
we've talked about a lot.
Yes. But just I guess it just gives people more into insight into
Yeah.
my
While we're here.
existence.
Yes.
Yeah.
While you're
While we're
here,
here.
while you're
Yeah.
passionate about sharing, it's
Yes.
always good to give a little background.
Yes. This is why I'm passionate about people just change, man. It really is beneficial when
Yeah.
you don't do it your way. don't
Yeah.
don't rely on yourself. It's not helpful. But trust God and let him help you.
Let him work out the details.
Yes. He knows more than you know anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Look, he knows more. He
Yeah.
can do more than you can do through you. He can make a way out of no way. I've seen him do that plenty of times. So it's all good when we can come to that. But yeah. So you got any last words, any last remarks for this afternoon, evening, or whatever we're in at
Yeah.
this moment?
Oh, just thank you guys. We'll see you next time.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.